Open heart, open mind, good day and good evening to all of you. Namaste. Welcome to the Sattva channel, the official online platform of the Sattva Project. So, first of all, on behalf of the Sattva team, I would like to express our thankfulness and gratitude to our StreamYard sponsor and media partners, Durian ASEAN and Durian FM. And not to forget also a very important man behind the scene, our broadcast director, Brother Chang. Hi, Brother Chang. Would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Shara, for the introduction, and hope everyone watching will find benefit today on this very interesting discussion. Please do like and share our broadcast so that more people can benefit. And for those watching later in YouTube, please do like and subscribe to get more videos. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind effort and contribution, Brother Chang. So we are going to have a very important, meaningful, and interesting dialogue today entitled Saddharma and Saddhamma. What is enlightenment? So today's dialogue will be moderated by Dr. Christie Chang. So let me give a brief introduction about who is Dr. Christie Chang. So today is a part 2 of the dialogue. And then Dr. Christie Yuling Chang is actually now the advisor and event director and dialogue coordinator of the Sattva Project. He is the joint president of International Buddhist Confederation, and he's also the president of Sakya Taiwan. And he was the chair of steering committee for International Lay Buddhist Forum, and she was president of Sakya International Association of Buddhist Women, and she was also the president of Hawaii East-West Center Taipei chapter, and Dr. Christie Chang was also the director, Council on International Educational Exchange, CIEE, Taipei. She holds a PhD in linguistics from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. May I present to you now Dr. Christie Chang and let the dialogue begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Sheriff, and thank you also, Brother Chang, our hero from behind the scenes, and welcome everyone to our program tonight, part 2 of this episode. What is enlightenment? So, tonight we have all the same speakers except for unfortunately Pandey Gyana Bodhi couldn't join us today. So let me introduce you our speakers for tonight. First of all, we have Venerable Jenlang. So Venerable Jenlang, ordained under Venerable Huan, renowned Chinese artist, Bhikshuni master in Tiantai School, who established Huafan University in Taiwan. And Venerable Jenlang has a BA degree in history from Taiwan, and also she has a master's degree in Buddhist studies from University of Washington and a PhD in Buddhist studies from the University of California at Berkeley. And currently, Venerable has many responsibilities. In addition to serving as the president of Huafan Cultural and Arts Foundation, she's also the president and editor-in-chief for Yuanquan Publishing Company. She chairs the Graduate School of Huafan Buddhist Studies, as well as the founding president of the Association of Huan Studies. So Venerable Renlang specializes in Tiantai School and Chinese Buddhism, Sanskrit, Buddhist English, and Chinese Buddhist history in the Sui and Tang dynasties. And she now teaches at Huafan University and gives Dharma talk via various channels, including Light Buddhist TV channel in Taiwan. Actually, this morning, Venerable Renlang also taught via YouTube, live streaming on Saddharma Pantarika, the Lotus Sutra, right? Maybe Venerable Renlang can tell us a bit more later on, but let us welcome Venerable Renlang now. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you very much, Christine, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for watching us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shifu. All right, let me bring up our second contributor, who is Khenpo Sonam Tsewang. So Khenpo graduated at the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies in Varanasi, and he also studied at Namdroling Monastery at the Ngagyur Nyingma Institute, where he was enthroned as a Khenpo in 2011. And Khenpola has translated the all-pervading melodious sound of thunder, the outer liberation story of Turton Mingyur Dorje, together with Judith Amtsis. And Khenpola is currently working on a new translation of Longchenpa's Treasury of Pith Instructions. Khenpola travels extensively with Khenchen Pema Sherab Rinpoche serving as his translator, and Khenpola is now based in France. Welcome, Khenpola.
Nice to be a part of this dialogue, and I look forward to the next 1 hour and 1.5 hour in discussion. Thank you, Sattva Project, for having me.
Thank you, Khenpola. Our next panelist will be Dr. Maria Vasylieva. Dr. Maria is a Ukraine Dharma translator and interpreter. She is a graduate of Rongyong Yeshe Institute of Kathmandu University, where she currently works as an interpreter and instructor. She holds a PhD in political sciences and currently is studying for her second PhD in Buddhist studies in the International Buddhist College in Thailand. Welcome, Dr. Maria from Ukraine.
Thank you, Dr. Christie. I'm very glad to see you all again.
Welcome back. Yes. And our next contributor is Dr. Giuliano Giustarini, based in Rome. So Dr. Giuliano has a PhD in Indological Studies from the University of Turin. He has an MA in Indian Religions and Philosophies from La Sapienza University of Rome. He's a lecturer at the International PhD Program in Textual Buddhist Studies at Mahidol University. He's a translator and lecturer at the Fondazione Maitreya, Foundation of Maitreya, right? Welcome, Dr. Giuliano.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation, for having me here again. I'm looking forward to discuss with my fellow speakers here, and I'm glad to be with them again and with you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Giuliano. And again, our last but not least speaker, Bibek Sharma. So born in Nepal, Bibek finished his BA Buddhist Studies in International Buddhist College, Thailand. Further, he completed his MA Buddhist Studies in Fo-Guang University, Taiwan, where he learned classical Buddhist Chinese and translated a correspondence between Kumarajiva and Huiyuan to complete his master's thesis. For his PhD program, he joined Mahidol University, where he is currently working on Yashomitra's Abhidhamma Kosha Vyakya, a sub-commentary on the Abhidhamma Kosha Bhashya, to complete his PhD thesis. Currently, Bibek is translating the first chapter of the text as translated by Xuanzang for BDK Japan. He reads Chinese, Sanskrit, Pali, Hindi, and French, apart from his own mother tongue, Nepali. So welcome, Bibek.
Tiyatma Saranam. Thank you, Christie. And then I thank all the viewers who are watching this live telecast right now. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming back. And I'm sure we have some audience from the first time who have been following us, and we may have some new audience. That's why I try to introduce everyone one more time. And last time I remember we pretty much agreed upon on the the Buddhist view or the Buddhist definition of enlightenment, although we still prefer the word awakening, right? Or liberation. But in any case, we also debated a little bit. We had really interesting discussions, if you still remember. And I'm sure all our speakers kind of left with something still unsaid, unspoken. So I would like to pick up, just to follow up upon what we left, where we left. So, and since I know Khenpo has to leave us after an hour, so may I invite our Khenpo to start first? Khenpo?
Yes, one thing, maybe another dimension of this conversation about enlightenment or awakening, what I would like to bring to the attention is the concept of Buddha nature, or Sugata, which is quite important in understanding the journey of enlightenment, and from a sentient being perspective and onto the path of enlightenment and finally achieving the state of awakening. So Buddha nature actually is likened to the sun, which is actually, even though it is obscured by clouds around it, but the essence of the sun is unobscured. So in the same way, all sentient beings, regardless of their present condition, high, low, rich, poor, in whatever forms of life they may be in, they have this, what we call the Buddha potential, the Buddha essence, the Buddha nature, which means to say that the seed of enlightenment is very much within each and every individual. So from that perspective, in Buddhism, no matter how cruel a person or individual is, like a killer, for example, still has this potential, Buddha potential in him or her. And what happens is, then what about this delusion? The question comes up, what about this delusion? And the delusion is more or less like a confusion which actually prevents us from seeing this potential, the Buddha essence in us. And once we see that we have this potential and works on removing this delusion, this confusion, then we exhibit or we manifest those enlightened or awakening qualities in a process. So therefore, this is something very important. We talk about the journey of enlightenment or awakening is more about removing something which is not inherent in us, removing something which we have acquired along the way. And when we have removed what we have acquired, the habits, the bad habits, then what we manifest is what we have in us, inherent in us. And that is quite beautiful, not only beautiful, but also like very profound concept, and which is very important for all the practitioners of Buddhism to really know about the concept of Buddha nature and how does it kind of like exist in each and every one of us, regardless of our present condition, and how negative emotions, obscurations, whatever limitations that we have is something removable. It's not there permanently. They do not exist there permanently. They are removable, and that is what we call there's a word called adventitious, which means to say they are temporary. They are temporary. Delusions are temporary. They can be removed. And what is inherent in us is the Buddha-like qualities of wisdom, compassion, power, enlightened power, and so forth. So when we practice the path, the process is like we remove what we have acquired along the path, the habits. And once we remove those clouds, then the rays of the sun manifest. That is actually inherent in us. And that's when we are completely free from all the clouds, whether it's dark clouds, the white clouds, then what we exhibit, the entirety of all the Buddha-like qualities that is within us. So I think with this, maybe we can start to kind of like discuss more on this, because this also surrounds around enlightenment, awakening, the journey to enlightenment.
Yes, Khenpo, thank you very much for following up upon that discussion. And well, I think Dr. Maria's internet is being a little bit unstable. So can we grab you while you're still with us, Dr. Maria?
Yes, sorry. I don't have my usual connection today, so it may come and go. And yeah, I would like to thank Khenpo for bringing up this very important aspect of Buddhahood or enlightenment. Why it is so important? Because in what Khenpo has just explained, it becomes clear that enlightenment, awakening, Buddhahood, whatever we call it, it's not something artificial or something which does not belong to us that we are trying to create or trying to achieve. So it's like we are trying to get somewhere where we are not. So it's more like coming back to ourselves. So basically, we are just trying to uncover what we already have. So our Buddha nature, which is already in us, it is inherent to us. This is our own goodness, qualities such as compassion, love and kindness, like everything good that we have. This is how we can think of our Buddha nature. Of course, the Buddha nature itself is beyond any concepts, but how we can judge whether we have it or not, every time we have some kind thought or compassionate thought. This is how it is explained that this is how our Buddha nature manifests. And when we speak about Buddha nature, like continuing what Khenpo has said, we speak about two types of purity. And so the first one is this inherent purity that the Buddha has and we also have. It is same, absolutely same. But then the second type of purity, this is the purity of freedom from temporary stains. And this one we do not have. So this is what we have to achieve by removing the stains. But this Buddha nature, it is always same. We do not change it. We do not alter it in any way. It is always there. We just need to uncover it by removing these temporary stains or so-called obscurations. Yeah. So then when I'm trying to think about it, that the image that kind of works for me is the image of washing a glass. So just imagine that you have a pure glass, something crystal clear. However, it has some stains. So then when we are trying to wash it, we are just removing the stains. However, the glass was always crystal clear. It was never stained. So this is how we can think about our Buddha nature. It was always primordially pure, never stained. However, it has these temporary obscurations that we have to remove. And when we remove them, then this purity, inherent goodness will get manifest. So this is how we can think of it or kind of create an image of it to understand.
Thank you, Dr. Maria. So we have heard from the two speakers representing the Tibetan, the Vajrayana tradition. How about the, from the Mahayana, but Mahayana Chinese tradition? May we invite Venerable Jenlang? Yeah,
Oh.
people want to hear from you more, Venerable Jenlang, our audience.
Okay. Yeah, I think from my own training, I think it's a two sides. Okay. Because one is academic, I think that is a kind of knowledge, and to me, and I feel there are many theories, I think we started, and then we know about them, but I think the other training, my background is from my master, Venerable Huan. She is a lineage. Her lineage is belong to Tentai school. It's a kind of a Chinese Buddhism Mahayana background, and then I think that is mostly, to me, it's a real practice. Attain enlightenment. But it's really, really difficult. It's a long way to go, and I think I would like to say more about according to the Tentai schools, because the founder of a Tentai school is the Ziyi master, and then he emphasized the practice to attain the enlightenment. But actually, in Chinese way, and also my master always say, don't talk about too much about the enlightenment, or even don't talk about that, but rather how to practice and how to really attain your own realization. And then that is very difficult and also very important, because I think to us it seems the enlightenment is the final stage to become arhatship, arhat, or become a Buddha. But then to us, I think step by step, maybe when we realize our, difficulty, or our, our fault, and then that is kinds of realize, and also a little bit of enlightenment. So I think from my master's training, it's also based on the Tiantai practice. It's emphasize how to, I think we put in the simple way as a meditation. But according to the Tiantai school, the meditation is it's a two-part, it's a two-fold, and it's a samatha and vipassana together. And it's not only one samatha or one vipassana emphasized, but it's a two combination. Because from the samatha, we can calming our mind, and then to put our thoughts to in the deeper parts, because our function, our mental function is only thinking, is our thoughts. But then through the samatha, we can see our thoughts and to come down, and then become vipassana, is a contemplation. So through the contemplation, it seems we can see our inner action clearly, and to readjust. And then this is a kind of process. I think that is also a process of a little enlightenment. Okay, that is okay. Maybe I can say that stuff here.
Thank you, Shifu. Yes, I wonder whether just now you saw the beautiful background. We are in a starry background today, tonight. So that gives a little bit of a relaxing atmosphere here. So I want to thank Brother Chong for that beautiful background today. And now let me move to Bibek, because Bibek is also representing the Sanskrit tradition, right? So we are saving Dr. Giuliano to the last, representing Pali. Okay, so Bibek, you first.
Thank you very much once again. Maybe I would like to add something to what Khenpo has said about the Buddha nature, the basis. It is often the concept among the people. People think that this Buddha nature or this kind of teachings are found in Vajrayana or in the Mahayana mainly. But when we look at even Sattva Pitaka, let's say, now I'm transgressing a little bit, I'm talking about the Pali text also. Yeah, when we look at the Pali text, we find certain type of kind of a, you can say, a consciousness that Buddha is talking about. He says it is a kind of a luminous, it has a luminous nature. So something like Prabhasura or Prabhasura. So this is also mentioned by the Buddha in the Sattva Pitaka too, like Pali Pitaka. And the way Khenpo explained right now, it is the Buddha also explains in the same way that this Prabhasura Chitta or Prabhasura Chitta is covered by some advantageous defilements, and one needs to remove that defilement, and then you arrive at a certain point, a kind of a state where there is no earth, no fire, no water, and where there is no long, no short, and so on and so forth. So actually, this is the basis for the transformation that Vajrayana or Mahayana talks about when we talk about the Buddha nature. So that is one point I wanted to point out. And second thing I would like to say about the Enlightenment is that perhaps we can even say that it is a very special thing in Buddhism that we give we offer a roadmap, a complete roadmap of a bhumi, the ground, and the path and the fruit. So there are three types of prajna in Buddhism, and one is converted into another, and eventually we reach a non-conceptual state, in which we cannot express what it is it is inexpressible. So these three types of wisdoms are the first wisdom is the wisdom developed by hearing or reading the dharma, correct dharma, which is called srutamai prajna. Then we more or less understand what is the view, what is the path, what is the fruit, and where we are heading in Buddhism. So once we have a sound background, you can say, or a foundation, on that foundation we practice the chintamai prajna. That is the prajna or the wisdom developed by contemplation, proper contemplation on samatha and vipassana. Then we reach the bhavanamaya prajna, or the wisdom developed by the contemplation or meditation practicing. And so, it depends on which path we are talking about. In this Sarvastivadi tradition, then after that we enter this. Up to here is the Nirveda Bhagya. It is like conducive for the penetration, and then we enter into the non-conceptual prajna or something like that. So this guides us slowly towards conceptuality to non-conceptuality. So we were repeatedly saying that how can unenlightened people can talk about Buddhism or enlightenment, so on and so forth. So in Buddhism, it is exactly for this reason, to remove this confusion, that we go from one wisdom to another slowly, and then eventually we enter into the non-conceptual state. So I wanted to clarify this point here. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bibek. Now, Dr. Giuliano, our Pali representative here. After you.
Well, okay. Thank you. I don't feel like a representative, but I'll try my best. Yeah, I think there's a lot. I should say I agree with all the previous speakers said, and there are so many points I think to discuss. I'll try to be brief. I was impressed by the fact that eventually we arrive at the point when we have to talk about the inexpressible, or the characteristic of ineffability of the liberation or enlightenment as being unspeakable in a way. You know? So we discussed that the other time, that we have this paradox of speaking of the unspeakable, and we are trying to walk in this narrow path, which is a narrow path in many ways. And I think that okay, maybe a possible solution would be just to stick to the terminology offered by the text. So I heard about the Buddha nature. Bibek mentioned the Pabbasarashita as well, and so we have these terminologies that may help us understand the state of awakening or enlightenment. I was thinking of okay, other terms that maybe we touched briefly in the previous meeting, like vimutti, liberation, or body awakening itself, and nibbana, or nirvana in Sanskrit, and also the extinction. So in this sense, I think that we may think of, for instance, liberation, vimutti, and the word itself implies that there is something that is liberated, and that thing is liberated from something else. And so I think that we may complete this term, this lemma of liberation, of vimutti or vimukti in Sanskrit, as liberation of the mind, chitta, or of the heart. So this is the main thing. We know that something is liberated. We have a mind, the heart, hadaya or hridaya, the heart which is liberated, and this is liberated from defilements or obscurations. Obscurations actually fits very well to some extent the term enlightenment. No? So we have something that prevents light to shine in a way. No? So there are obscurations, there are defilements, kilesas or kleshas, and this is what the mind is liberating from. And we have many terms that actually indicate the fact that we are slaves. So there are samyojana, the term samyojana, which means that actually we are fettered, so we are in the prison of samsara and so on. So I think this is a strong image that we can focus on to have this idea of what enlightenment or liberation is. So there is actually a prison, and because of this prison there is suffering, dukkha. And of course the most famous synonym of nirvana, nibbana, body, and the vimutti is dukkha nirodha, so the cessation of dukkha. So I think maybe, at this point I think I will stop here, maybe, because I think there is already enough. Maybe, I don't know, if people are interested, we may discuss further these terms themselves, or also the importance of the terms like nibbana and body in this lexicography of enlightenment, of liberation.
Thank you, Dr. Giuliano. Yes, I think Khenpo was about to say something. Please.
Yes, I would like to comment a little bit on Venerable Jenlang's explanation and importance of the meditation or the practice rather than the intellectual side of it. And I think this is what is important in Buddhism is we always talk about, I think just as Bibek pointed out about the structured approach, like holistic approach, or we can say to Buddhism, whenever we study, whatever we practice, whatever we engage in, the whole package should be there, I think, as mentioned in the teachings. Then definitely when we talk about studying, the importance of studying, then the intellectual thing, or that uses one's own sense of reasoning in order to understand what is the reality and so on and so forth. Of course, like without the proper study, then just kind of like jumping onto meditation, this is also a kind of like an incomplete kind of approach. And in Tibetan, it's rightly pointed out that there's a particular expression called Theba mebe gomba ni lagdum gen la zekpa da, which means to say that without studying properly what you are actually going to meditate on, or without having the understanding of the truth through proper study, then right away going to meditation is also a kind of like a lacking in itself. It is just like a person without arms trying to climb a mountain. So I think this shows about the importance of study in Buddhism. Importance of the study actually help us to develop the view, right view. What is the right view? Once we have got the right view through listening, through studying, through investigation, through question and answers, through discussion, then the right view is developed. Once we got the right view, then the next step is to meditate upon it, because the clarity is already there, the confidence or the certainty is already there. So then the meditation is important, comes into, because meditation actually works on the mind after developing the view. So I think both are important. Like you study a lot, and if you don't meditate, that doesn't serve the purpose. At the same time, without studying, just jumping onto meditation also doesn't serve the purpose, because you don't really have developed the right view. So I think the whole package is so important, not the partial thing. Like, so we talk about view, developing view through study and contemplation, and then actually practice, which is meditation. And then of course it has to do, whatever we meditate, whatever we practice, also has to have a relationship between what we do in daily life in terms of our actions, whether it's speaking, whether it's walking, whether it's eating, whatever it may be. So the charya, or the conduct, comes into picture. So when we have all these three, then the fruition is kind of like ascertained. So I think like there are also, of course, there are schools who emphasize more on meditation rather than study. There are schools that emphasize more on study than in meditation, and so on and so forth. In Tibetan tradition also there exists such. But I think like taking all this together is for important, you know, in the search or in the journey to enlightenment. So that's what I would like to comment on Venerable Jenlang's the explanation. And then the regarding Bibek's the point on the Prabhaswara being explained in the even the foundational vehicles teachings. Yeah, definitely it is there. Even in Pramana Vartika by Dharmakirti, it points out one particular line which talks about Semgi Rangshin Veselwa Timanamni Loburwa, which talks about the nature of mind is clear, clear light or luminous, and the stains are adventitious or obscurations are adventitious. But what is interesting to see is that, you know, right away in these contexts, in this particular, it doesn't talk about Buddha nature. The term actually Buddha nature is not used here. So from the Vajrayana or the Tibetan Mahayana tradition, we talk about 10 sutras in the third turning of Wheel of Dharma, which emphasize a lot. I mean, these 10 sutras actually highlights the whole concept of Buddha nature, like how it abides in us, all of us, in the ground, and you know, how does it manifest, what are the signs of it manifesting, and how is the journey like, and what is the final fruition, and so forth. The whole kind of like roadmap, so to say, is mentioned in very much detail, you know, in the third turning of Wheel of Dharma, which is also considered to be the distinct Mahayana, not general Mahayana, distinct Mahayana from the one of the Nyingma explanation within the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So the definitely we can find all the roots in the foundational vehicle, because that's the foundation of what the Buddha taught. You know, all has its roots. Even when we talk about bodhicitta, the bodhicitta seed is actually, it's called the compassion, and compassion and all these loving kindness and practices are very much kind of present in the foundational vehicle teaching. So I think there is a common thread. It all depends upon how far they are emphasized, how far they are clarified. You know, in Tibetan we say selge dzoksum, in terms of clarity, in terms of extensiveness, in terms of completeness. You know, it depends within the yanas. So that's what I just came to my mind just to share. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Kempola. Anyone has anything to respond to what Kempola just said? Yeah, Venerable Renam, please.
Okay, I also want to respond to the Kembola's suggestion. I think it's right, because when I say emphasize on the practice, and especially according to the Tentai school, it's it's both samatha and vipassana together. And of course, I don't mean we don't need to study the teaching. Yeah, it's also the Tentai school actually, beside the samatha and vipassana, 止跟观, and also the other part is teaching. But the teaching is also a different degree. Yeah, it's from the basic, and the basic is how to get the liberation, is we call the Zhang Jiao, and then to the Mahayana teaching, and then to the Buddhahood teaching. So it's a Zhang Tong Bie Yuan. And then, the each step, we have a different the practice. So the teaching, I think it doesn't mean we need to know the complete teaching, but we can also practice when we learn the basic. So even the samatha and vipassana, the meditation, we can put in the practice from the beginning. Even we just know, we have a Buddha nature and we will be a Buddha, eventually. And then we have to, correct our behavior. And then we have to have a right, the concept. And then, based on the Four Holy Path or Four Holy Path, and then we can start it in practice. I think that is I agree with it. Yeah, but in the complete theory, it takes a long time, and also the practice also take a long time. Especially the practice, I think it's difficult when we say we how to remove our defilement, how to face our degree or our greed or angry or ignorance, because from the enlightenment is to enlighten what we don't enlighten, what we unenlightened. I think this is a kind of a reflection of ourselves and to know better. I think this is a kind of a true process of our inner practice. I think that is a kind of what I really like to know more about and to put in the action more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable. Yes.
Thank you.
And anyone else to respond to what Khenpo just said? Bibek, you want to say something? Oh, Maria, Dr. Maria, please.
I just wanted to enter not into my garden, and just to comment what is the difference in understanding of Buddha nature within the Mahayana and the foundational vehicle, as far as it is explained in Mahayana. So we are taught that the concept of Tathagata Garbha is present, of course, in the foundational vehicle, but it is interpreted in a different way. So it is interpreted as a potential, as a bija, as a seed. So this is something that can grow into Buddhahood. So this is just a potential, a seed, bija, or seven in Tibetan. However, within the Mahayana, we speak about Buddhahood being fully present. So it's not just a seed, it is not a potential, but Buddhahood in sentient beings who are deluded, as you have all mentioned.
I think we have lost Dr. Maria, huh? All right. So that's, yeah, it's not my internet. We have lost it, right? Just to make sure. All right. Okay. So
I think maybe
Khenpo,
maybe I can add on our behalf.
Okay,
So
please.
what
All
actually what Maria I think wants to actually express, I think I can relate to that, because Buddha nature as a seed and Buddha nature, the qualities of the Buddha very much intact now, not as a seed, like in a fully kind of like say perfect form, at the present, right now, when you are a sentient being, right now, right here and now. So that's the difference, I think. That's what she's trying to point out. In the Mahayana,
Potential.
in the Mahayana, when we talk about Buddha nature, it talks about Kuda Yeshe, which talks about the enlightened body and enlightened qualities of the Buddha, very much present right now. So in that respect, I think what we have now as sentient being, the Buddha nature or the Sugata Garbha, and what the Buddha has no difference. So I think we are on the same level. So that's kind of something that which is not being explained. in the foundational vehicle. Maybe it is explained as a seed, but not, fully kind of like present there. Sorry,
All
Maria,
right.
I took your position.
Yes. Yes. Sorry, as I said, my internet is not stable, but as I heard the end of what you have said. Yes. So this is exactly what I wanted to say. Yes. So that in Mahayana it is fully present. Yeah. It is just covered, but it's not just to see the potential. It's already fully there. And Uttara Tantra Shastra says that sentient beings and Buddhas are same. Yeah. This is just the sentient beings and temporary obscured. This is the only difference. And then, as for me, I was always wondering, why, why sentient beings are deluded? So why the Buddhas are not, and why sentient beings are confused? Why they are deluded? And in the context of the highest teachings, which we call Mahasandhi or Dzogpa Chempo, the Great Perfection, we have this amazing, profound prayer, Kunzang Malam, the aspiration of Samantabhadra, the primordial Buddha. And then it is said that the primordial Buddha Samantabhadra has never been confused, has never been deluded. But the beings, they are deluded. They're confused because they do not recognize their Buddha nature. So I was always wondering, but why? Why sentient beings are, by definition, sentient beings? Because we do not recognize our Buddha nature, while the Buddhas are not confused, and they do recognize it. So this is this, it comes down to the topic of ignorance. And this is another aspect that if you would like, we can discuss, because we have several types of ignorance. And one of them is called co-emergent ignorance, Lenkyepa Marikpa. And this is what is always present with us. So from the very first moment, we are confused because we do not recognize it. So we have this co-emergent ignorance. It is co-emergent because it arises with us, together arising. As soon as we arise in samsara, it is with us. Yeah. So that's why I was always wondering, why do I have it, for example, as a sentient beings, as a sentient being? Yeah. So why is there ignorance there? Because the other type of ignorance is so-called the imputed ignorance. This is something that we acquire in the process. But this co-emergent ignorance is there from the very first moment of us being in samsara.
Beginningless.
Yeah, beginningless times. So that's why, this is like a question I had, basically, why we are confused from the very beginning. Yeah, what is the reason for it? And when I ask these questions, the masters always answer that this is by definition. If you're a sentient being, you are confused. If you're not confused, you're not a sentient being. You are a Buddha. Yeah, and this is all. This is all, right? So that's what I was wondering about. So I don't know if you're worried about ignorance as well, then probably we can also discuss.
Okay. Anyone, anything to respond to that?
I think we
Yes.
need to change gears. I think there's one good question come from the audience. I think maybe we address
Yes.
that also. That would be good.
All right. All right.
Of course,
Okay.
Maria's question is very valid, and there's a lot of discussion on it, and I don't think like we will be able to settle this right here. Maybe need more.
We need another day to
Yeah.
to talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, since Kempola has mentioned, we do have one question from the audience, and all audience, you are all encouraged to ask questions. Okay. So we have this question from Ron. Can we hear your opinion on what is enlightenment rather than from formal text? I think here we have a further clarification. Some experiential expression of enlightenment rather than textual explanations on awakening. Basically, something that is more personal, or something you have experienced or you have heard about enlightenment. So, anyone, anything? Kempola, please.
Yeah. I think I should speak because there's not much time for me there.
Okay, please.
Yeah. I think from the experiential point of view, I think what is important is to see that there is a gap between what appears to us and what is the reality. And this is something that is very much kind of like experiential for all of us. All of us experience this at some point, maybe like many times, that we think that, things will exist, they will persist, they will remain, but things do not, So there is a gap there, isn't it? We think that we will be like, we are quite sure, or like if you talk from the perspective of just one aspect of reality, let's talk about impermanence, for example. And impermanence is something both subtle and gross, particularly the subtle impermanence, that change is constant, and this is something that is not perceptible to us, and there is a gap there, and because of that there is confusion. And what I would like, enlightenment in simple terms can be understood as when the gap has been bridged of how things are and how we experience it, how we perceive it, when there is no gap in between. That is what we call a moment of enlightenment. Of course, we can deepen that understanding, but we can deepen that understanding into emptiness also. But to make it understandable, that there is a gap between what is the reality and what is the appearance. So in appearance, for us, things appear to be permanent, static, something that won't change. But actually, in reality, it's constantly changing. And because of because of the lack of harmony between what is the perception and what is the reality, then we are constantly in pain because of that. So when there is complete harmony between perception and the reality, like a total sync between how we experience things and how reality is, then there is no pain. And that's what we call nirvana, beyond pain. Beyond pain means when we realize what is the reality, what is the reality of things, and when we perceive accordingly, then there is a complete harmony of how things are and how we perceive. And at the same time, there is no confusion, because there is no confusion, there is wisdom, there is light, there is what we call bliss, and there is kind of awakening, that is awakening, in simple terms.
Okay, thank you, Khenpo. Anyone else, please? Yes, Dr. Giuliano, you're muted. Yes, please.
Amazing, yes. Okay, yeah, I would like to connect this question with the question of Maria before, because I think that somehow the answer to this question about the experience of enlightenment has been answered before, like by Venerable Jenlang, for instance, by emphasizing the role of practice, meaning that okay, we talk about awakening body as it is an understanding. It's awakening from a dream, awakening from sleep, but at the same time it's the understanding. But this understanding is not so much an understanding of contents. There is not actually an information to be understood, but it's more an understanding which is a transformation of the mind. And this transformation is practice, so there is a path to that. So when we talk about experience is, I think it is epitomized by practice, the path. So that's where we have all the experience that we may think of. When we talk about experience, how do we experience? So that the teachings say that one must practice, and practice are very thoroughly explained. And I think that this goes back in a way to the question by Maria before, in the sense that avidya or avidya, that actually is something that goes with and before sentient beings. So we are the product of avidya, ignorance. So ignorance is before existence itself. It's the first factor of the pratitya samutpada or paticca samuppada, dependent arising. And the text repeated again and again that there is no beginning of avidya, ignorance. But on the same time, it can be reversed. So there is a reverse paticca samutpada. There is an unconditioning of the mind. I think that's where the experience can be found, and that's where the answer to this quandary, this conundrum of avidya, ignorance, can be found. So I don't know if this is more confusing than before, but that's the answer came up to my mind.
All right. Yeah. Bibek, you want to say something?
Yeah, I would like to take that question, which was asked by our audience. Well, technically speaking, someone is enlightened only after attaining Srotapanna or Darsana Marga. So until and unless someone is at that stage, we do not call anyone enlightened in Buddhism. That is the glimpse of enlightenment we see. But there are testimonials of enlightenment in different Pitakas. For example, in Pali Pitaka, we have Theragata, Therigata. In Chinese, we have a lot of poems by the Chan masters. In Vajrayana, we have Dohas, the kind of verse sang by great Siddhas. So more or less, we can, because I am an unenlightened person, so I can just reason from the point of view of how scriptures explain these kind of enlightenment experiences. So one of the underlying thing about these experiences is, perhaps I can quote a great Chan master Linji, whose tradition is still alive in China. So what he said was, it was very simple, something like, there is nothing to do in Buddhism, no effort at all. When you are hungry, you eat. When you want to sleep, you sleep. Now, then we all do that. Like when I'm hungry, I also sleep, and many of you, I hope, you sleep. And then, what is the difference between an enlightened person and unenlightened person? So the main thing, as Khenpo has already given some conceptual idea, that we distort the reality. We are always in a kind of hallucination. We never see the reality as they are. So there are two types of distortions that is introduced by our normal perception. One is called samaropa, some kind of superimposition. Something we see and we superimpose, we add something to that. And then another thing is we subtract, like we remove what is already there, and we do not acknowledge this. So these are the two main errors that normally we prithakjana or worldly beings have. We never see things as they are. We are always hallucinating, adding flavor to our experiences, and that is why we see what? We see non-impermanent thing as permanent, and we grab on it, and we create all kinds of anxiety, delusion about it. Then we suffer, and there are three types of sufferings that we normally suffer. Then these are all rooted in another kind of ignorance, that we really think that something I exist. So there is one very succinct verse by Acharya Nagarjuna in the Pratitya Samutpada Hridaya Karika, a verse of the heart of dependent origination. So he says something like, Napaneyam ataha kinchit, prakshapyam napi kinchana, drashtapyam bhutato bhutam, bhutadarsi vimuchyate. So it is something like, you should not remove something from your experience. Napaneyam ataha kinchit, and na prakshapyam, you should not project anything to these dharmas, because they do not have their own nature. They are impermanent. There is no such thing as suffering. There is no such thing as sufferer, right? We all project these things to the dharmas, to our bodies, to our mind, and we hallucinate, and we are afraid, we have anxiety, we have suffering. So, and then he says, Drashtapyam bhutato bhutam. So, one should see those things as it is, those dharmas as it is, and the one who sees like that, he is the one who is enlightened. So, those enlightened beings who expressed in their dohas, or I don't know, in Theragatha, Therigatha, normally this is one of the underlying things, that they see reality as it is. They are they do not construct the idea of I or mine, and they do not have neurosis, different types of neurosis, phobias and manias, and they live normally a very normal life without anxiety. So that's all I can say, perhaps. Thank you.
Okay, Khenpola has to leave, but before Khenpola leaves, would you like to say a few words? You are muted, Khenpola.
Okay, so unfortunately I have to leave, but I think it was a great pleasure to be a part of this, and of course, sharing what I actually understand, and also to listen to the respected speakers and to learn more from other tradition. It's a great effort. So thank you everybody, and especially for Sattva Project, and hope this dialogue continues. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Khenpola. Bye. Au revoir. All right. So actually, I do have a question from the audience, and since Bibek was also talking about Chan, right? We have to Venerable Renlang to speak a bit more about the Zen, the Chan tradition. How many different types of Chan are there in the Tiantai school, like Hua Tou Chan or Zu Si Chan, or maybe Venerable Renlang can enlighten us on that a bit more.
Okay, now there's also talking about it's kind of a knowledge, Yeah, I think according to the Chinese tradition, I think the emphasize the practice, the schools are Tentai school and also Chan school. Yeah, and the Tentai school is a teaching and practice together. So it's a theory and samatha and vipassana two way together. And the Chan school probably is more emphasize the Chan masters' personal teaching. So we call the Chan Feng. As the different Chan master maybe will give a different way to enlighten their disciples. So we call the 灵记鹤 棒，然后it's a different way. It's a to shout, and then it seems to stop you, put in your thinking. So it's just kind of a very sharp way to stop our delusion. So, and then probably the disciples, when they practice this way, and then one day they just, touch their heart, and then they just kind of, we call the sudden enlightenment. It's a 顿悟. Yeah. But then the 顿悟also from gradual practice, still step by step. And then when we call the enlightenment, it's a suddenly. Yeah. So it's at that moment we call the enlightenment. And then if we call the 话头, maybe the Chan master will give you a 公案, and then this 公案 is kind of a phrase or a sentence, and then the disciples maybe just concentrate on this phrase. For instance, they say the 泥牛入海是何事? They say it's a muddy cow and go into the ocean, and then what will that be? And then we just emphasize and focus on this phrase. And then it seems, I think this is also eventually combine samatha and vipassana, 止观. And because when we focus on these 公案, our mind is very focused and without any other thoughts. And then the other way is vipassana. It seems as a nature reflection. It seems like we can see our true nature. So there's a Chan master say, directly point our heart, and then we will see our true nature. 直指人心，见性成佛, and then it's become a Buddha. So it seems like this is Chan master's training, but this is really difficult, and also, you know, without mostly the teaching. So sometimes it's very dangerous to do this way. It's without any basics of the Buddhist teaching. So we will say Tian Tai school may be more reliable and stable, because with the whole teaching as a system and then put in the practice is according to meditation in the samatha way is a 止. We come to calm down our mind and then to reflect, contemplate our thought. So these two ways combination, I think it's very important. So the Tentai master Zhi even say the samatha and the vipassana, it can be symbolize the Buddhism. The whole Buddhism is within the samatha and vipassana. So I think this is the what we the background of our practice. And I also want to say something about the previous question about from the personal experience of the maybe we can show the realization or awakening, but not the fully enlightenment. It's only one very small step, because I think when we say the impermanence or non-existence, emptiness, and how do we really can realize it? I think it's also the inner realization. So when we feel very anger, but then we really can calm down and see our anger is not true, and it will be go. And then I think this is kind of a very self-enlightenment, a little bit achievement. And then because through this way, we can see, oh, our thought or our mood is not permanent. So this is kind of one little by little, and it's a kind of our self-enlightenment. This is my suggestion.
Okay, all right. That's good. Actually, Venerable Renang is already answering the next question I was about to raise from the audience, part of it. But let me, raise that question right now here. So there's this question from Sangamita Chu. My question to both Venerable Rinpoche, or maybe Dr. Maria now, and Venerable Renang, is what are the major variants between Chinese version of Vajrachatika, the Diamond Sutra, and of the Tibetan version? So will Dr. Maria answer that from the Vajrayana perspective?
Vajrachatika Sutra is pure Mahayana, the Diamond Cutter Sutra. And with any sutra, it depends on which prototype we are speaking about, because Vajrachatika has many texts in Sanskrit that were found, like Like I think in Gandhara is the earliest which was found as far as I remember. And there are many different prototypes, many different recession lines. Yes, so one of those was translated into Tibetan. And well, if someone is interested, there is a very nice resource online. It is called how it is called? Bibek, the Oslo University website that has Vajrachedika in Sanskrit, in Chinese, and in Tibetan in parallel. The Biblioteca Polyglotta website. Yeah?
Oh.
So they can find it and look at it if they know, for example, Chinese and they know Sanskrit or Tibetan. They can compare. And there is also one translation in English that is also there. So it's like columns. Yeah? So this is how the text comparison can be made. So that's why when we speak about Vajrachedika in Sanskrit and in Tibetan, it depends which Sanskrit. Yeah, there are many Sanskrits of it. So that's why how we can answer.
Yeah, that's a very complicated question, actually. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Anything to add to this question?
I think I was point out. Yeah. So maybe
Yes.
I said about because I didn't do any textual study compare with the Chinese version and the Tibetan version of the Vajrachedika. So I couldn't say what is the difference between these two versions. Sorry.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but
all right. Yes.
if you allow me, Dr. Christie, I would like to go back to what Venerable Rinlang has said about the instantaneous and gradual enlightenment in Chen. Because I think it is not only limited to Chen, or Zen. It's actually present in other traditions. And for example, in the Tibetan tradition, it is also there. Yeah, we have this notion of instantaneous or Chikcharva type of a being, or Rimgipa, the gradual type of a being. And it is usually connected to the capacities of a being, because it is said that beings have different capacities. So those beings who are of lower capacities, middling capacities, and highest capacities. And so usually it is said that beings of highest capacities, they are able to attain enlightenment instantaneously. So they don't need this whole preparation along the path of purification, merit accumulation, all this. Yeah. So the Buddha nature is pointed to them, they recognize it, and this is it. Yeah. But this is one of the versions. Just 1 second, be back. Let me finish, okay? Because it is also said that actually every being is gradual type of being, but that they do their homework in one life. Yes, so they complete all the accumulations, purifications in one life, and then many, many lives. Yeah, but then comes the point when they are already matured, they are ready. Yeah, so and this is the lifetime when they can be considered beings of highest capacities. And so when such a being meets a correspondently high master, then in this connection, the Buddha nature of Buddhahood can be recognized instantaneously when it is pointed out. And this is what is called instantaneous enlightenment. And there are many examples of such beings in the Tibetan tradition. Yeah, we have this even aspiration that we chant before every session, that I would like to attain enlightenment in this very sit, during this very session. Before I raise from this session, I want to become enlightened. So this is the aspiration that we have. So it is absolutely possible. But at the same time, we should be very careful, because if we are not a being of highest capacity, but we neglect or we disregard all this homework of purification of obscurations, gathering accumulations, and we just sit there and wait for the Buddhahood or Buddha nature of mind to be pointed out to us without doing nothing, without doing anything, then we are wasting our time. Yeah, that's why it is said that let's hope that we are capable of this highest capacity act of recognition, but still let's act as if we are not. So let's work for enlightenment and not waste our time. So what Venerable Rinlang has said, I agree. Of course, we should practice, not waste our time. and not wait for some miracle to happen, yeah, for the nature to be pointed to us and just recognize it and done, yeah. Unfortunately, in our degenerate time, when beings are so obscured, it is very much unrealistic, unfortunately.
Yeah, that sounds about the same as the Mahayana Chinese tradition. Yeah, Bibek, please.
I just wanted to add a very tiny comment there. Even as far as I remember, the let's say the fifth patriarch, Huineng, in his platform sutra, says that there is no such path like quicker path, and the path is actually about few things. For example, how you see the kleshas, the defilements, right, and also about the capacity of a person. So the path is short and long, fast or slow, depending on the capacity. So even in the Chan tradition, this I think is there. So that's all I want to say.
Okay, right. Thank you. Yeah. So, Dr. Giuliano, do you have anything to add to the discussions?
Well, I think I briefly here in the quality of experience, I heard something that could be maybe emphasized a little bit. The fact that there is a quality of experience, and though it is inexpressible in many ways, sometimes we have definitions like happiness, sukha. So I think this is useful in a way to not to forget that we are talking about something real, not practical, not just theoretical, and although happiness may be a slippery term because ambiguous, because it may suggest that it's the happiness that we all know. The fact that it is defined nirvana is defined as paramount sukham, so the other, the supreme happiness, the ultimate happiness. So it's right to say this is happiness, but it's not the happiness that we are familiar with. It's beyond that happiness. So I think that maybe this is something that we should have in the background. It's something that transforms the quality of life, of everyday life, also not just because it is the end of samsara, but also because it's something that extinguishes dukkha, the fire of dukkha. There is a passage in the Theragatha that says that actually it's like being liberated from a house in fire. And this actually is a relief. It's a relief in many ways. The problem is that we usually we think of our life like not being in fire. This is the problem. Aditta, there is this term, aditta, everything is in fire, everything is in flames. And we tend to forget that. We tend to think that happiness is what is conventional, experienced every day, but that could be transformed. And I think that what, for instance, Berbo Erlang pointed out is that this balance of calm and investigation, samatha and vipassana, or samatha and vipassana in Pali, this actually operates in a way that let real happiness to be. Just be.
Yeah, very good points. Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Giuliano. Yeah, in fact, this kind of like conclude our discussion so far. This notion of happiness and this very important reminder. Thank you very much. Yeah. We lost Dr. Maria just.
We don't see her.
So do we have anything, right now here with our speakers to add? And any questions from our audience we want to answer? Let me check. The relationship between equanimity and enlightenment. Actually, that's a question from Andy, our audience, Andy. Anything you want to say, our speakers?
Well, I will make sorry.
Yes,
Yeah,
Bibek,
You first, Bibek. I already talked. So.
will make a very general comment about this. When we talk about the enlightenment, the major thing in work is the wisdom, knowledge, that we have a very clear understanding of the nature of the reality, right? So we know that what is the swabhava, or the nature of this body, our perception, and what is going on. We have very clear understanding, and we don't just distort. So that's a kind of
Bibek? Are we losing you, Bibek? Yeah, we are not hearing your voices. Cannot hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't hear you.
Yeah, Maria
Welcome
is
back.
back. You're welcome. And then we lost Bibek. You're in complementary distribution somehow.
There's an impermanent.
You are using the same internet connection, I think.
Exactly.
Understand?
Yeah, we are being enlightened on impermanence. All right, I think Dr. Giuliano.
Oh yeah, if I may jump in just about equanimity. If you allow me to be back, okay, thank you. Just a little thing. I found interesting that we talked about seeing and awakening is seen the way things are. No, it's Jnata Bhuta Jnanadassana. No, the knowledge and seeing the way things are, knowledge and vision of the way things actually are, and the word for equanimity that we usually translate equanimity is in Sanskrit is upeksha and in Pali upekha. And one of the etymologies offered by Buddhaghosa is the upa iksh, so seen from a side, looking at things from a certain distance, in a way that I'm not involved in things, I'm not attached, I don't cling to things. But at that point, I can really see them as they are. So thinking of a possible relationship between equanimity and awakening or enlightenment, I see that in this way, that actually is in the chance to see things as they are, that we can actually be awakened. And we need to move a little bit. We need to step back from experience, not to be involved, not to be attached, not to have an appropriation of experience. So when there is this relaxation of the I mind, aham mama or mamankara, at that point we can see things as they are. And this, I think, is like equanimity may work in terms of enlightenment or awakening.
Mm-hmm. All right, Bibek, you want to continue to say what you...
Yeah, yes, well, more or less I was going towards that direction. Like normally we already said that we have samatha and vipassana, right? So the samatha, especially when we reach the fourth dhyana, for example, in a way our mind is still. And as far as I remember, now I have to check the sources, but as far as I remember, the quality of the fourth dhyana is also about the equanimity. So it has that quality. And then after that, you are supposed to still look at the nature of the dharmas, and that is something about the vipassana. So here, of course, at the point of the enlightenment, I imagine that there is a very good degree of concentration as well as a very clear understanding of the reality too. So there is a smriti, and then there is samprazanya, both very much present. Smriti in the sense that you have your object in front of you, and you are not attached to that object. You are really in a very distant position. And then you also understand the nature of that reality and what is going on, right? So I think that is the difference between just equanimity and having a clear understanding in that state of the mind. At least that's what I can say.
All right, thank you. In the end, huh? But that's get this answer to Josephine Gomez, who's been waiting someone to answer that right or not right. Okay, so she was asking, when we would have removed the I and the mind in our paradigm, I think that is the beginning of the harmony of reality and perception, right? Do we agree? Or speak mind, then that's the beginning of the harmony of reality and perception. Yes?
I think
Okay,
if
all
we
right,
remove
Maria.
if we remove I and mine, it will only complicate things because we use them for the sake of communication, right? So like relative truth, we say I and mine, and this is okay because this is just to facilitate our life. Yeah. So can you imagine communication without using I and you? But of course, from the absolute perspective, there is no I, no you. Yeah, no me, no you, no Lama, no Jesse. You remember Little Buddha movie? So just like that, yeah, but we do not speak on an absolute level because beings will not understand it. And even the Buddha, when he found out the Dharma, yeah, when he got enlightened, what he said, I found this profound truth, luminous, yeah, nectar-like. If I tell about it, no one will understand. So better I stay silent in the forest. So this was the Buddha's understanding, that if he tries to express it, no one will understand. And this is just how it is, yeah. But then the Buddha looked at the world and he saw all these beings, and then he was saying, in my past life when I was a monkey, what did he mean? There is no I, there's no monkey. But nevertheless, the Buddha was using it because this is the perspective of ordinary beings. Otherwise, how they can understand? And then there was another question about experiential understanding or experience of enlightenment. And in the Tibetan tradition, there is a metaphor used that it's usually spoken not about enlightenment, it's like very high, yeah, but about emptiness or the true nature of things. It is just like a mute tasting honey. So the mute person tasting honey, they themselves, they know what they are tasting, right? What is the honey? But they're mute. They cannot express it. So this is the taste of enlightenment. Only the one who tastes it knows it, but they cannot express it. So this is the metaphor about the experience of emptiness or whatever you call it, yeah? The true nature of things.
All right.
Just small comment here. So when someone is, let's say, enlightened, the only thing that person actually removes is the error of the cognition that there is really existing I and mine and imputed on the five aggregate. But we know that in 2,500 years of history, all the enlightened masters actually dwelled in the earth, and then they spoke normally, they ate normally, they were doing everything like a normal human being. So it does not mean that they will stop using the linguistic conventions, and they will stop eating, they will stop interacting with the people. It is just that in their mind, how they perceive things, that has changed. And what has changed is that they don't think that there is really existing I. They don't think that there is really existing mind, that I can grab onto something, right? But without that, they will peacefully live in this world, and they may even watch YouTube if they are in 21st century and enjoy things. That is not a problem. So the only thing, the only last comment I would like to say is that we change the perception. That is all. When we have an enlightenment, our perception is changed. There is no more errors. But it is not that we cease to exist or we just become vegetable. That is not the situation.
Thank you, Bibek. Yeah, we have another longer question from the same audience, Josephine, who asks, we come into the lifetime with a set of consciousness and mental states, according to Abhidhamma. How does this affect one's capacity for enlightenment? Are these spiritual practices that can make up for lower mental states and a moral consciousness? And Dr. Giuliano, you have something that can answer to
Sure.
Josephine.
Yes. Okay. I may think from the point of view of Pali Abhidhamma more than Abhidharma in general, and so actually yes, we have a set of qualities in a way that we are born with, and maybe for karmic reasons, and we inherit what we have from previous lives, and we have in the Dhamma Sangani there is a list in the Pali Abhidhamma Dhamma Sangani, one of the 7 books of the Abhidhamma or Abhidhamma Pitaka in the Pali Canon. There is a classification of 3 kinds of chittas, so all kinds of mind, and no, actually not chitta, is in concomitance with chitta, but these are Dhamma factors, and they could be kusala, wholesome, akusala, unwholesome, and neutral. And so we can deal with them in various ways. Usually there are kind of antidotes. So there are counteracting actions that we may do by using kusala, wholesome factors, in order to limit, to lower the power of akusala factors, of unwholesome factors. So when we have amoral states of consciousness, for instance, they can be actually blocked a little bit, prevent a little bit, stopped. We have sambara, for instance, which is a kind of which is a way to stop these factors, and we can use any opposite factor in order to deal with them. And on the other hand, they can be recognized, and the understanding itself is an antidote. It's a kind of universal antidote. And usually, what we say is that they lose power, and they can eventually be eradicated once they are really acknowledged, once they are known as they are. And since their nature is not a permanent nature, once they are recognized, they can actually be dispelled. So yes, we have to do with what we are. We have to do with all the possible flows that the ignorance produces. But on the other hand, as we said before, this ignorance can be reversed, and all the conditioning can be reversed. So we can act at a specific point. So where there is a kind of, for instance, talking about a moral consciousness. So when something is unethical, we can use sila. So we can use actually all the moral standpoints and instructions in order to prevent this moral consciousness. And on the other hand, we can recognize it. So this is the other way. So when we see that what something comes from, we can actually stop it from arising it again. So yeah, basically, I would say from Pali Abhidhamma perspective, I think this may work in this way.
Yeah. Okay. Due to time constraint, let's move on to our last question. Actually, very good to have very engaged audience. We have one question from Dr. Mattia. Can anyone say a few words about the relationship between enlightenment, Buddhahood, and the 5 sciences, Panchavidya, Satanani? All right. I believe that's Wu Ming, right, Shifu? Yeah, so the relationship between enlightenment and the 5 sciences. Anyone? Dr. Maria?
Actually, this question reminds me of the 84 Mahasiddhas of India. Yeah, usually we speak about these 5 great sciences, yeah, the Rikne, Chemponga in Tibetan, and among them we name like craftsmanship, logic, grammar, what else is there? Medicine, eh? Medicine, and then the last one, the inner science or Dharma.
Yes.
And usually only the last one, Dharma or inner science, is connected directly to enlightenment, but in my perspective of an ordinary busy being, I always remember about the 84 Mahasiddhas, who were very busy people. No, some of them were shoemakers, others were prostitutes, very busy. And then they were involved in all these 5 sciences of craftsmanship, for example, or medicine or whatever. But then when they were doing all these things, connecting it with the recognition of the true nature of things, this is the way how they were getting enlightened. That's why I think
I think we lost her again.
All right, someone to continue.
Bibek,
Well, as far
Bibek.
as as far as I remember, so it is Sabda Hetu, Silpa, Chikitsa, and Adhyatma, right? So Sabda Vidya is something like the language, linguistic knowledges. Hetu is very important because Buddha also established what is Hetu, what is the right cause, what is wrong cause, and one should be able to clearly understand the relationship between the cause and effects. And then comes the silpa. A bodhisattva is supposed to be proficient in whatever he or she engages, and medicine, of course, to help others, and adhyatma for our own purification. So there are 2 aspects here. One is for oneself and one is for others. And this, both of them, when combined, as far as I remember Asanga saying that when these are combined, then this becomes the kind of a cause for the omniscience of the Buddha. So until and unless someone practices all these 5 vidyasthanas, these 5 sciences, then one would not attain the omniscience. So that is the least explanation I can offer here.
Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, we're running out of our time here. To conclude, I would like to invite each of our speakers to just say one sentence or two as a reminder for our audience under this topic we have had for the for these 2 times. All right, can we invite Venerable Renlang to conclude?
Conclusion.
Yes.
I think we just keep in practice, and then eventually we'll attain Buddhahood. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Renlang. And Dr. Maria, please.
I will just repeat what I once heard Gyalpan Karmapa, Orgyen Trinley Dorji once said. He said that we are little Buddhas, so just let's nurture our little Buddha for it to become big and powerful one.
Thank you, Dr. Maria. And Dr. Giuliano, please. You are muted. You're muted.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I would say that although the goal may look distant, far, there are some sayings of the Buddha that says that all the like all the ocean has the flavor of the salt, so all the Dhamma has the flavor of liberation, vimutti. So actually, even if we are not reached the goal is present right now to some extent.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. And Bibek, please.
Yeah, I would like to emphasize on the role of the teacher and proper and uninterrupted lineage of the enlightenment in Buddhism. This is extremely important. If someone wants to attain any kind of enlightenment, Buddhist enlightenment, nirvana, 3 types, either as a Sravaka Bodhi, Pratyeka Bodhi, or Samyak Sambodhi, one should connect with a qualified teacher, which is connected with the lineage of which is not interrupted, and that lineage should also produce some enlightened masters recognized by other contemporary masters. Without this prerequisite thing, there is absolutely no enlightenment, and that the Buddha also emphasized even in a Sravaka text such as Upadda Sutta. Buddha says that a teacher is really indispensable, and it is for the whole of the holy life, not only a part of the holy. Thank you. And that Buddha also emphasized that a teacher is really
What was that?
indispensable, and it is for the whole of the
It's
holy life,
playing
not
back
only a part.
automatically, huh?
And that Buddha also emphasized that a teacher is.
All right.
I have no idea what happened.
Okay, all right. That's okay.
It's a magical display.
Magical. Okay. I was actually reminded of Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's comments on, all of us being part-time Buddha. Sometimes we are awake, sometimes we are asleep. Time Buddha. So let's all work on that. And once again, I want to thank all our speakers, our wonderful, wonderful speakers, very fruitful discussions, and our very much active audience for tonight. And once again, we want to dedicate our merit. We want to share our merit. And I would like to invite each of our speaker, like we did last time, in your language, in your tradition, to share this dedication of merit. And Venerable Jenlang, please.
愿以此功德普及于一切，我等与众生皆共成佛道。阿弥陀佛。
阿弥陀佛。And Dr. Giuliano?
Sabba papasakaranam kusalas upasampada sashitta paryodapanam etam buddhana sasanam.
Okay, I will recite one.
Satu.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I will recite the dedicatory verse in Sanskrit. Anena punnena tu sarvadarsitam avapya nirjitya dosa vidvishaha jara ruja mrityu mahormi samkulat samuddareyam bhavasagara jagat.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Maria, please.
May I please go with English today for the sake of communication?
All right, please.
May the precious mind of enlightenment bodhicitta rise where it has not yet arisen, and where it has arisen, may it not decrease, but increase further and further.
Thank you very much. Thank you all again. Thank you all our audience and also our two heroes working from behind the scenes, Brother Sharap and Brother Chang. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.